Imagine for a second, you've spent most of your life believing that being available, emotionally, mentally, even physically, was a virtue.
You answered every call, justified every feeling, smiled when you didn't feel like it. You thought that accessibility would bring you love, respect, success. But tell me, has constantly being available given you true peace, or has it drained you piece by piece? Carl Jung once said that the parts of ourselves we give away too freely are often the ones that hold our real power. What if your accessibility is not a strength but a vulnerability? What if every time you rush to explain yourself, every time you react immediately, you're giving someone the blueprint to manipulate you? Today, we embark on a journey not just of understanding but of transformation. We'll explore why becoming less available isn't about building walls but about reclaiming your sovereignty, about stepping into a deeper, calmer, more magnetic version of yourself. And it all starts with a simple, brutal truth. The more you are available to everyone, the less you are available to yourself. Stay with me, because what you're about to discover could change not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. Let's dive deeper. Every time you jump at a message, explain yourself at the slightest discomfort, or rearrange your life to meet someone else's expectation, you are making a silent transaction, exchanging your peace for their approval. But here's the thing, no one tells you about the hidden tax you pay. You lose energy, you lose clarity, and worst of all, you lose yourself. When you're always reachable, you stop being respected. You become predictable, moldable, expendable. Harvard studies have shown that people who consistently sacrifice their personal boundaries experience higher rates of emotional exhaustion and even depression. Because your nervous system isn't designed to be in constant alert. It's designed to have seasons, moments of openness, and moments of sacred retreat. Yet, our culture celebrates the always available, the ever responsive, as if burnout were a badge of honor. But tell me, at the end of the day, who recharges you? This endless accessibility is not kindness. It's self-abandonment disguised as duty. And here lies one of Jung's most radical ideas. Not every call deserves an answer. Not every knock at your door deserves to be opened. Jung understood that to truly individuate, to become who you are, you must first protect the sacred space of your inner world. So think about it. What have you been giving away so freely, your time, your energy, your soul, to people, to jobs, to causes that don't honor your essence? The price of being always available is the slow erosion of your power, but once you recognize it, you can start choosing differently, and that's where the real transformation begins. In a world addicted to noise, silence has become an act of rebellion, not of the kind of silence that comes from fear, the kind of silence that comes from strength. When you resist the urge to explain, to react, to defend, you create a vacuum. And in that vacuum, something extraordinary happens. You reclaim your energy. Carl Jung observed that true power does not announce itself. True power is silent, subtle, magnetic. And here's the paradox, the less you reveal, the more others want. To understand you, you don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to explain your choices to validate them. You don't need to react to prove you are alive. Michel de Montaigne, the great French philosopher, once retreated into his private tower to reflect on the human soul. He wrote that true freedom comes not from controlling the world, but from no longer being controlled by it. And that starts with mastering yourself. Silence is a form of emotional sovereignty. It's choosing not to let every comment, every criticism, every invitation into drama dictate your mood. Imagine walking into a room where everyone is desperate to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, and you're simply there, present, calm, whole. That presence, that refusal to be dragged into the chaos, radiates a power that cannot be faked. Remember, the loudest person is rarely the strongest. The most reactive person is rarely the most stable. True, strength is quiet. It moves without needing permission. It speaks without needing words. And when you master the art of silence, you stop being someone others can control. You become someone they must respect. Because you've stopped offering your energy to be consumed by anyone who asks, and that's not coldness, that's wisdom. Letting go is often painted as defeat, as failure, as giving up. But what if letting go is the greatest act of power you can exercise? Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging, you stop tying your worth to outcomes, to relationships, to recognition. Carl Jung taught that the self is not found in what you grasp, but in what you release. True individuation, true becoming, demands that you let die the attachments that drain your soul. Think about it. How many things are you still holding on to simply because you're afraid of what might happen if you let go? That draining friendship, that job that suffocates your spirit, that endless need to be understood. Montaigne, too, understood this paradox. He once said that life's greatest wisdom lies in learning how to lose. Because only when you are no longer afraid to lose can you truly be free. Detachment is not indifference, it's clarity. It's knowing the difference between what feeds your soul and what merely fills the silence. When you detach, you stop begging for scraps of validation. You stop chasing people who only come when you call. You stop explaining your worth to those committed to misunderstanding you. You stop fearing the silence of being alone and start savoring the peace of being whole. Detachment is strength wrapped in serenity. It is presence without possession. It is love without chains. And when you let go of what weighs you down, you don't fall. You rise. The less you need, the more powerful you become. And suddenly, you realize what you were clinging to was never holding you up. It was holding you back. Energy is your most precious currency. Where you spend it determines what grows. Most people spend their emotional energy reacting to every comment, every opinion, every expectation. They invest in drama, in validation, in battles that don't even matter. But imagine if you treated your energy like a limited fortune. Imagine if every reaction cost you $1,000. Would you still waste it so easily? Carl Jung believed that the focus of the mind shapes the reality of the soul. What you give attention to, you give life to. This is the hidden law of energy economics. And here's the brutal truth. Attention is not free. Every time you argue with someone who doesn't deserve your time, every time you obsess over a judgment from someone who doesn't know your heart, every time you explain yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding, you are paying. With your peace, with your focus, with your power. A Stanford University study on cognitive load found that people who allow themselves to be constantly distracted by notifications, by interruptions, by external demands, experience a drastic drop in creativity, productivity, and emotional resilience. In short, when you scatter your energy, you scatter yourself. But when you protect it, you multiply it. You become more creative, more magnetic, more powerful. Energy flows where attention goes. So ask yourself, what am I growing with my attention? Anxiety, insecurity, drama, or purpose, peace, and presence. Master your focus, and you master your life. Because real power isn't about controlling others. It's about controlling where your energy lives. And when you choose carefully, you don't just survive, you thrive. Boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to a healthier, more authentic life. Most people think setting boundaries means becoming harsh, distant, or unapproachable. But true boundaries are acts of love. Love for yourself and even love for others. Carl Jung taught that integration of the self requires defining where you end and the world begins. Boundaries are how you honor that sacred space. Think about it. The most powerful people you know aren't the ones who say yes to everything. They are the ones who know how and when to say no. Firmly, calmly, without drama. You don't need to shout your boundaries. You don't need to explain them endlessly. Real boundaries are felt. They are sensed in the way you carry yourself, the way you protect your time, the way you choose your battles. And when you live your boundaries with quiet firmness, the right people will respect them naturally. Michel de Montaigne understood this centuries ago. He observed that serenity is born when we stop offering ourselves where we are not valued. Boundaries are not walls to isolate you. They are invitations for real connection, for interactions rooted in respect, not neediness. Every time you choose to protect your peace over pleasing others, you strengthen your inner foundation. Every time you calmly step away from what disrespects your essence, you teach the world how to treat you. You are not responsible for others' discomfort with your growth. You are responsible for staying true to yourself. And that's the most liberating boundary of all. There is a moment in life when you realize no one is coming to rescue you, and strangely, that's not a tragedy, it's a liberation. When you stop depending on the approval, validation, and emotional support of others to define your worth, you stop being an emotional slave. You become sovereign. Carl Jung taught that true selfhood comes from within. It is not granted by society, relationships, or achievements. It emerges when you crown yourself. Think about how often you've adjusted your words, your dreams, even your values, just to keep the peace, to avoid conflict, to feel accepted. And yet the acceptance never really healed the ache inside, because true acceptance can't be given to you by others. It has to be claimed. To move from emotional dependency to emotional sovereignty, you must be willing to lose the need to be liked. You must be willing to disappoint others in order to be loyal to yourself. And that's hard. It's brutal. But it's also the birth of real strength. A report from the American Psychological Association shows that individuals who cultivate internal validation, the ability to affirm their own worth without external approval, experience higher levels of resilience, happiness, and emotional stability. Because when your peace no longer depends on others' moods, reactions, or opinions, you become untouchable, unshakable, whole. You stop entering arguments that don't deserve your voice. You stop chasing connections that diminish your light. You stop apologizing for existing. You start standing in rooms without shrinking. You start speaking truths without trembling. You start walking away without guilt. Emotional sovereignty isn't about building a castle around your heart. It's about living so deeply rooted in yourself that no storm can uproot you. The chains that once held you, the need for approval, the addiction to being understood, the fear of abandonment, begin to rust and fall away, and in their place, freedom, silent, radiant, unstoppable. That's what it means to become unreachable, not out of arrogance, but out of profound, unshakable self-respect. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, patience is a superpower, but not the kind of passive patience where you sit back, and hope, active patience to lead the conscious choice to wait, to hold your ground, to act only when the moment is right, is one of the greatest forms of emotional mastery. Carl Jung knew that deep transformation doesn't happen on command. It unfolds like seasons, like tides, and those who rush the process, who demand immediate results, often uproot the very seeds they planted. Think about how many mistakes are made out of impatience, the hasty text sent in anger, the impulsive decision made out of fear, the opportunity lost because you couldn't endure the discomfort of waiting. Active patience is not inaction, it's strategic stillness. It's knowing that some victories are grown in silence and revealed only when fully formed. It's the strength to hold your tongue when your ego demands you lash out. It's the wisdom to pause when the world pressures you to rush. A study published by the University of Chicago found that individuals who practice delayed gratification, the ability to wait for a greater reward instead of settling for immediate lesser ones, achieve higher levels of success, health, and emotional well-being. In essence, the ones who win are often the ones who wait, but waiting is uncomfortable. It triggers our fears of being forgotten, of missing out, of losing control. Yet it's in that space of waiting that real power is built. The one who doesn't rush to explain, who doesn't hurry to be chosen, who doesn't scramble to fix everything, becomes magnetic because they trust the unfolding. They understand that real connection, real opportunity, real transformation, all of it takes time. Patience is faith in action. It's declaring, I trust my path even when I can't see the next step. And that kind of faith, it makes you unstoppable. What if you stopped living for the claps, for the likes, for the validation you didn't even ask for but somehow started chasing? Becoming unreachable is not disappearing, it's appearing differently. It's moving from a life where you react to every noise, every expectation, to a life where you respond only to your own truth. You stop measuring your worth by others' reactions. You stop adjusting your light to make others comfortable. You stop betraying yourself for a momentary nod of approval. Instead, you build your life from the inside out. You let your choices, your art, your love, your silence be enough, without needing an audience. Jung believed that the journey of individuation, of becoming who you truly are, often requires walking away from the applause of the crowd, because the crowd cheers for conformity, not authenticity. And if you are true to yourself, you will lose some people, but you will find yourself. And that exchange is worth everything when you live for your own alignment, not their applause. You step into a different kind of existence, quiet, solid, free. And ironically, that's when you become the most magnetic, because nothing is more attractive than someone who doesn't need to be. Here's the truth: you don't have to become louder to be heard. You don't have to become faster to be valued. You don't have to become smaller to be accepted. You just have to become yourself, fully, unapologetically, quietly. Carl Jung taught us that wholeness comes not from perfection, but from integration, from embracing both our light and our shadow. And today, you have taken a step closer to that wholeness by choosing silence over noise, presence over performance, sovereignty over slavery. You have started a silent revolution within yourself, a revolution that doesn't scream. It simply changes everything. And if you hold on to that revolution, if you keep walking this path, you will find a life not just of success, but of peace, of depth, of real, unshakable freedom. Thank you for walking this journey with me. If this message stirred something inside you, like it, share it, and subscribe. For more reflections that aren't always easy to hear, but are always necessary, and if you're ready for the next step in your silent revolution, watch the video suggested here. Until next time, remember, your silence isn't absence, it's dominion.